This is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. I'm the fellow who has a hyphen in my name. The hyphen is silent, but I am anything but that. Respectonomics brings you the fourth part of the Living Dignity episode, in which we are looking at the hub, the centerpiece, if you will, of Respectonomics, which was, or is, restoring respect for individual dignity. But Living Dignity looks at the four quadrants. We looked at enabling individuals to discover their own worth. We've talked about, secondly, reviving human identity. We've talked about understanding the human triad. That's the body, the mind, and the soul. And now we're talking the fourthly. In this one, we're talking about honoring fairness. Honoring fairness. My name is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. I am your voice of Respectonomics. I'm your ear as well, meaning that we want to hear back from you. Respectonomics is an organization of team players, colleagues, compatriots. Actually, compatriots isn't quite accurate because we are spread around the world. The team consists of people in the United States, in Australia, the UK, Canada, and so on. So we're bringing a totally, what you'd call, ecological base to the issues that confront us. And this one we want to talk about now is honoring fairness. And I want to start by saying that fairness, you often hear it said, oh, fairness is elusive. And that's not true. That is absolutely not true. Fairness is something that we can experience, something we can enjoy, something that we can encourage anytime, any place. You can do it in your family, you can do it in your place of work, you can do it in the community, whatever the organization would be. The issue of fairness is one that we can exercise at any time, at any place. It's hard to define. It may be, I don't think it's elusive, but I think it's hard to define. And what we're saying here is we may not say we can define fairness. We can look it up in a dictionary and come out with the correct understanding of it or explanation of it. But you know, fairness is a bit like some other things in life. You can't necessarily define them, but you certainly know them when you see them. So the starting gate to fairness is for us to be able to look at each other and say, I want to be fair. We want to be fair. We want Respectonomics to be fair. We want you to be fair. And you can start being fair to yourself, because one of the things we're all very good at is bashing up on ourselves. What I did wrong today. I think we can be much fairer to ourselves when we recognize the extraordinary strengths that lie within each and every one of us. If we're going to restore respect for individual dignity, it is also axiomatic that we should be fair to ourselves and to be able to look at the things that we have either inherited, that we have is in our DNA, if you will. It may be because of the environment, but whatever the climate has delivered to us, we need to be able to understand there's great merit in being fair to oneself. And being fair to oneself is a way of exploring the totality of our human experience. That we human beings do have these extraordinary capacities. We have the sovereign right to be able to look at ourselves, and in order to have a right and the privilege that goes with it, then we should also be the ones to say, I want to be fair to myself. So to be fair to yourself does not mean arrogance or conceit, although I am greatly amused that in one of the Gilbert and Sullivan operettas, he says, go blow your own trumpet. And that might sound like a moment of arrogance or pomposity, but in actual fact, being fair to yourself is recognizing the values that lie within you. And if you can be fair to those, then there's a greater chance that they will be able to be expressed in your life and into the community at large. So we're agreeing it's not elusive. We're agreeing it's hard to define. But we also want to think about what do we mean by fair? And it's a wonderful word. We often talk about a favorable wind. there's a boat out or there's an airplane flying around or something, and you say he had a favorable wind or she had a favorable experience. But favorable and sense of being a favorable wind is called fair. It's a lovely expression. It's got a sense of gentleness to it. It's got a sense of modulation. It's got a sense of moderation. It's got a sense of being all around you. Being fair is a wonderful, wonderful acronym for being successful, for really, for bringing life to its fullness. And if we're going to talk about fairness, we can talk about it in a number of ways. We've talked already about being fair to oneself, but what about being fair to one's marriage? What about being fair to one's family? What about being fair to one's community? What about being fair in one's place of work? And the trouble is, most of us really, really enjoy being fair, but we find ourselves encountering anything ranging from parasitism to abuse to exploitation. And you go, what is the point? I think that fairness is a sovereign quality. It's a diamond in the rough. And if we allow someone else's lousy behavior to become the metric upon us not being fair, we have missed the point. So we need to be able to look up in the mornings, the evenings, and the afternoons, getting up from our naps, and thinking in terms of we want to be that favorable wind. We want to be a fair wind. We want to bring fairness. One of the ways to be fair is when someone else has a different opinion. And we all suffer from that awful thing about here's my opinion and I am right and you are wrong. When we get into that jam, one of the better ways to handle it is, of course, to listen to the other person's point of view. We know that, or to listen to whatever is being said generally. And then allowing ourselves to say, you know what, that is a reasonable point. And one of the ways to do that is the person says, it's better to go down this highway rather than that highway, and gives you a couple of reasons. And you say, you know what, that's fair. It's a lovely way of developing an agreement with another human being to say, that's fair. And if we wake up in the morning and say to ourselves, I'm going to say that's fair, maybe two or three times today, that in itself is a wonderful way of opening up our parachute and allowing the full wind and the ideas of other people, the spirit of other people, to fill us up. In that case, we just say, that's fair. That's a fair point. And you can be in the middle of a ghastly contradiction with one another. Which one of us hasn't had one of those, let's call them conventions of ideas, when we get quite irascible with one another? And to be able to say to one point, whatever may be, it may seem to be rather small in the big scheme of things, but whatever that small point is, how lovely to be able to say, that's fair. That's a fair point. But we need to look at fairness now from two other points of view. One is fairness is a matter of honor. We talk about honoring fairness, and that has a certain sort of exclamation to it that is attractive. But to be honorable is, in fact, one of the highest callings that any human being can enjoy and can promote. So when we talk about honoring fairness, we're talking about honoring something that runs very, very deep in the human ethos. It's a matter of honor that when we say I'm honoring fairness, how lovely to be able to say to one another, yes, that's fair, and I want to be fair, whether it's the way you pay somebody, the way you are paid, whether it's the way that you exchange one good for another, gift for another, whatever it is. When we talk about honoring fairness, in and of itself, it is honorable. And honor is a lovely word. It's a lovely expression that has eclipsed a lot of human interaction these days. So we can bring back honor by recognizing fairness. And we're recognizing the fairness, we can then use this as a matter of honor and say, I'm going to honor fairness, not only because honoring fairness in and of itself makes sense, and it's what I want to do, and I want to be treated fairly, I want to be honored as well. But the concept of actually using honor as a vehicle, as a conduit for expressing this fairness is in itself a wonderful human coronation. We should do it. The last thing is this. Most of us, can attest to how we have been treated unfairly. It might be in the place of work, it might be in reputation. There's a lot of different ways you can be treated unfairly. It might be an unfair when we were at school, got an unfair mark. We might have been on a soccer team and we were excluded from it. It was unfair. And the line you often hear is, "Oh, life is unfair." I don't agree because fairness is honorable, fairness has integrity, fairness has a sense of beauty to it. But unfairness is unsustainable. It doesn't work in the long run. It may give short-term satisfaction to somebody or something, but it is not a way of continuing along the long game. Said another way, equitable is sustainable. Equitable is sustainable. So when we engage in fairness and equitable behavior, we are creating a sustainable model. And if we talk to any climate specialist today, the one word we talk here about is sustainability. If we want to be the sustainability of human dignity and human possibilities, human prosperity, of the very nature of the human being, then behaving equitably is a long-term sustainable solution. This is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. We've talked today about the issue of fairness, honoring fairness. We had four quadrants, four feathers to this arrow of respectonomics, enabling individuals to discover their own worth, reviving human identity, understanding the human triad, the body, mind, and soul. And now we've just talked about the fourth one, honoring fairness. And when those four feathers are nicely carved and held properly and attached to the arrow of life, that arrow contains extraordinary energy, extraordinary power. It becomes its own vector. And because it's got a point at the end, it allows each and every one of us to reach and to target and to be successful in getting a bullseye on humanity. Let's do it together. Enabling individuals, reviving identity, understanding the triad, and now honoring fairness. Those four feathers can be the strength, can be the direction that directs the shaft of that arrow so that it can reach its intended target, better put, its intended purpose. The human being is built for fairness. Let's use it. I rest my case.